Every single week, you toss kitchen scraps into the trash that could have grown into fresh free food right on your countertop or in your backyard. What if I told you those scraps are worth more than what you paid for at the store? After 3 decades in the garden, I have watched people waste hundreds of dollars a year on produce they could have regrown from leftovers. Today, I am walking you through 20 kitchen scraps that regrow into mountains of free food. Stay tuned for number 17, because it is one most people never think to try. Plus, I have a bonus tip at the end that could change the way you look at your kitchen forever. The first kitchen scrap on our list is green onions, and honestly, this is the easiest win you will ever get in the garden. The next time you buy a bunch of green onions from the store, do not throw away those white root ends. Instead, place them root side down in a small glass or jar with about an inch of water. Set them on a sunny windowsill, and within just a few days you will see fresh green shoots pushing upward. Change the water every couple of days to keep things clean and prevent any sliminess from building up. Within about a week, you will have enough regrown green onion tops to snip off and use in soups, salads, omelets, or stir-fries. Once the shoots reach about 6 inches tall, you can either keep them going in water or transplant them into a pot with well-draining potting mix for even stronger, longer-lasting growth. Green onions are incredibly forgiving. They thrive in zones 3 through 9. They do not need much space. And you can repeat this cycle over and over again from the same root ends. Many gardeners report getting 4 or 5 regrowth cycles from a single bunch before the roots finally give out. The second scrap that deserves a spot on your counter is lettuce, specifically the base of romaine or butter lettuce. When you chop off the leaves for a salad, save that bottom inch or so of the stem. Place it, cut side up in a shallow dish with about half an inch of water, making sure the water does not cover the top of the cut. Set it in a bright spot, and within 3 to 4 days, you will notice tiny new leaves emerging from the center. Change the water daily to prevent bacteria, and in about 10 to 14 days, you will have a small but usable cluster of tender baby leaves. Now, I want to be upfront with you. Regrowing lettuce from a base will not give you a full head of romaine like you would get from seed. The second growth tends to be smaller and the leaves can turn bitter faster, especially if the plant starts to bolt. But for a quick handful of salad greens at zero cost, it is absolutely worth it. If you want to extend the harvest, transplant the base into a container with potting soil once the roots are about an inch long. Give it partial shade in hot weather and consistent moisture, and you will get a few more cuttings before it runs out of energy. Lettuce regrows best in cooler weather, so this works wonderfully as a fall or early spring windowsill project, particularly in zones 4 through 9. The third kitchen scrap that surprises a lot of people is celery. Just like lettuce, you can regrow celery from the base you would normally discard. Cut off the bottom 2 inches of a celery bunch. Place it cut side up in a bowl with warm water reaching about halfway up the base, and set it in a sunny window. Within about a week, you will see tiny yellow-green leaves starting to emerge from the very center. The outer stalks may dry out a bit, and that is perfectly normal. After about 2 weeks in water, once new roots and leaves are established, transplant the base into a container or garden bed with rich, well-draining soil. Celery is a heavy feeder, so mix in compost or a balanced organic fertilizer when you plant it. Keep the soil consistently moist, but not waterlogged. Celery performs best in zones 2 through 10 and prefers cooler temperatures, ideally between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Full sun is fine in cooler climates, but if you are gardening in zones 8 through 10, give it some afternoon shade to prevent bolting. The regrown stalks will be thinner and shorter than what you bought at the store, but they are perfect for soups, stocks, and stir-fries. Now, if you are finding this video helpful so far, I want to share something special with you. I have put together a free newsletter where I share my best gardening tips, seasonal reminders, and advice you will not find anywhere else. If you struggle with knowing what to plant and when, getting bigger harvests, or maximizing space in small gardens, this newsletter was made for you. Just click the link in the description to join for free. All right, let us continue. The fourth scrap on our list is potatoes, and this one has the potential to give you the biggest harvest of anything on this list. Every time you find a potato in your pantry that has started sprouting those little white or purple eyes, you are looking at a free seed potato. Cut the potato into chunks, making sure each piece has at least 1 or 2 eyes and is roughly the size of a golf ball. Let the cut pieces dry for 24 to 48 hours so the cuts callus over, which prevents rotting in the soil. Then plant each piece about 4 inches deep in loose, well-draining soil with the eyes facing up. Space them about 12 inches apart. As the plants grow, mound soil or straw around the stems to encourage more tubers to form along the buried portion. Potatoes do best in zones 3 through 10 and prefer full sun with at least 6 to 8 hours of direct light per day. You can expect to harvest in about 70 to 90 days, depending on the variety. From a single sprouted potato, it is entirely possible to grow 5 to 10 new potatoes. The fifth kitchen scrap worth regrowing is sweet potatoes, and the process is quite different from regular potatoes. Take a sweet potato and suspend it halfway in a jar of water using toothpicks with the bottom end submerged. Place it in a warm, sunny spot and wait. Within a couple of weeks, you will see roots growing from the bottom and leafy green shoots called slips emerging from the top. Once those slips are about 6 inches long and have their own roots, gently twist them off and place them in water until the roots are a couple of inches long. Then transplant the slips into garden beds or large containers filled with loose, sandy soil. Sweet potatoes need a long, warm growing season of at least 90 to 170 days, so they perform best in zones 8 through 11. Although gardeners in zones 5 through 7 can succeed by starting slips indoors early and using black plastic mulch to warm the soil, they need full sun, moderate watering, and plenty of room for the vines to spread. This is one of those scraps that can genuinely fill a pantry shelf from a single leftover potato. The sixth scrap to save from the trash is garlic, and if you have ever had a clove start sprouting in your kitchen, you already have everything you need. Take individual garlic cloves that have a green shoot beginning to emerge and plant them pointy end up, about 2 inches deep and 6 inches apart in rich, well-draining soil. Garlic planted in fall, typically October or November in zones 4 through 8, will develop roots through winter and produce full bulbs by the following summer. Each clove you plant will grow into an entire new bulb containing 8 to 12 cloves. That means 1 head of garlic from the store can produce over 50 cloves. Garlic prefers full sun and consistent moisture during spring growth. Hardneck varieties like Music or German Extra Hardy are excellent for colder zones 3 through 6, while softneck types like California Early perform better in warmer zones 7 through 9. Snip off the curly scapes that appear on hardneck varieties in late spring and use them in pesto or stir fries for a bonus harvest. The seventh item on our list is ginger, and this tropical root is surprisingly easy to regrow at home. Look for a piece of fresh ginger at the store that has visible growth buds, which are small bumps or nubs on the surface. Soak the ginger in warm water overnight to remove any growth inhibitor that may have been applied commercially. Then plant it about 1 inch deep in a wide, shallow container filled with rich, well-draining potting mix, with the growth buds facing up. Keep the soil consistently moist but never soggy, and place the container in a warm spot with filtered or indirect light. Ginger does not like direct, harsh sunlight. It thrives in zones 9 through 12 outdoors, but gardeners in cooler zones can grow it indoors year-round or move containers outside during the warmest months. Expect to wait about 8 to 10 months for a full harvest, but you can begin harvesting small pieces after about 4 months by gently digging around the edges of the plant. One small piece of store-bought ginger can eventually produce 2 to 3 pounds of fresh ginger root. The 8th kitchen scrap on this list is basil, and any gardener who loves Italian cooking should pay close attention. The next time you buy a bunch of fresh basil from the store or farmer's market, select a few healthy stems that are about 7 to 10 days. You should see white roots forming at the base of each cutting. Once the roots are about 2 inches long, transplant the cuttings into pots with well-draining potting soil. Fresh leaves for months. Varieties like Genovese and sweet basil are perfect for regrowing from cuttings because they root easily and grow vigorously. The 9th scrap that most people overlook is lemongrass. And once you try regrowing it, you will wonder why you ever paid premium prices for it at the store. When you buy a stalk of lemongrass, look for one that still has a firm base with a little bit of the root end intact. Trim the top portion for cooking, then place the bottom 3 to 4 inches of the stalk in a glass of water. Set it in a warm, sunny window and change the water every couple of days. Within 1 to 3 weeks, you will see new roots forming at the base and fresh green growth pushing out from the top. Once the roots are a couple of inches long, transplant the stalk into a pot or garden bed with rich, well-draining soil. Lemongrass is a tropical plant that thrives in zones 9 through 11 outdoors, but it grows beautifully in containers that can be brought indoors during winter in cooler zones. Give it full sun, consistent moisture, and a monthly dose of balanced fertilizer. A single stalk can multiply into a thick clump within 1 growing season, giving you more lemongrass than you could possibly use in tea, soups, curries, and marinades. Coming in at number 10 on our list is carrots, and I want to be clear about what you are regrowing here. When you cut off the top inch of a carrot and place it cut side down in a shallow dish of water, you will not grow a new carrot root. What you will grow is a lovely flush of carrot greens, which are completely edible and surprisingly delicious. Carrot greens have a mild, parsley-like flavor that works beautifully in chimichurri, pesto, salads, and soups. Place the carrot top in a dish with just enough water to cover the bottom edge, set it in a sunny window, and within a few days you will see feathery green tops emerging. Change the water regularly, and transplant into soil after a week or 2 for stronger, longer-lasting growth. Carrots are biennials that grow in zones 3 through 10, and while regrowing the root from a top is not possible, the greens alone are a nutritious bonus, rich in vitamins A and C that most people throw away without realizing their value. The 11th scrap on this list is beet tops, and just like carrots, regrowing beets from their tops will give you a harvest of flavorful greens rather than a new beet root. Slice off the top inch of a beet, place it cut side down in a shallow tray of water, and set it in a spot that gets bright, indirect light. Within a few days, you will notice deep red and green leaves pushing upward from the center. These beet greens are absolutely packed with nutrition, including iron, fiber, and vitamins A and K. They taste similar to Swiss chard and are wonderful sautéed with garlic and olive oil or tossed into salads. Once the greens are a few inches tall and roots have begun to form, you can transplant the beet top into a pot with moist, well-draining soil for continued growth. Beets grow well in zones 2 through 10 and prefer cooler weather, making this an excellent project for fall and early spring. The key to keeping beet greens tender and mild-flavored is consistent moisture and partial shade in warmer climates. One beet top can produce several harvests of greens over the course of a few weeks. The 12th kitchen scrap worth saving is bok choy, and regrowing it is almost identical to the lettuce method we talked about earlier. When you cut bok choy for a stir-fry or soup, save the bottom 2 inches of the base. Place it cut side up in a shallow dish of water in a sunny window. Within just 2 to 3 days, you will see fresh green leaves emerging from the center, and roots will begin to develop underneath. Change the water daily to prevent bacterial buildup. After about a week, transplant the base into a container with rich potting soil. Bok choy is a cool season crop that thrives in zones 2 through 11 and does best in temperatures between 50 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. It bolts quickly in heat, so regrow it during spring or fall for the best results. Give it partial shade in warmer regions and full sun in cooler areas. Within 3 to 4 weeks of transplanting, you will have enough regrown bok choy to harvest for another round of cooking. The leaves will be smaller than what you originally purchased, but they are tender, sweet, and perfect for Asian-inspired dishes. The 13th scrap on our list is fennel, and it regrows with the same water method as celery and bok choy. Cut the fennel bulb about an inch above the base, keeping the root end intact. Place it in a shallow bowl of water in a sunny spot, and within a few days you will see new green fronds sprouting from the center. These fronds have that beautiful, mild anise flavor and are perfect for garnishing fish, tossing into salads, or adding to pasta. After about a week in water, transplant the base into a pot or garden bed with well-draining soil. Fennel grows best in zones 4 through 9 and prefers full sun with moderate watering. While the regrown bulb will likely be smaller than the original, the fronds will keep producing for weeks, giving you a steady supply of this often expensive herb. Fennel is also a magnet for beneficial insects, particularly swallowtail butterflies, so planting it in your garden does double duty as a food source and a pollinator attractant. The 14th item worth regrowing is leeks, and the process could not be simpler. Save the bottom 2 to 3 inches of a leek, including the root end, and place it root side down in a glass of water. Set it on a sunny windowsill and change the water every couple of days. Within a week or so, new green growth will emerge from the center, and the roots will become more established. You can continue growing leeks in water for several weeks, snipping the green tops as needed for cooking. For a more substantial harvest, transplant the leek base into a pot or garden bed with rich, well-amended soil. Bury the base so that the white portion is below the soil line, which encourages blanching and produces the mild, sweet flavor leeks are known for. Leeks are cold-hardy and grow well in zones 3 through 9. They prefer full sun and consistent moisture. A single leek base can regrow multiple times in water, and when transplanted into soil, it can develop into a full-sized leek over the course of several months. Leeks are one of the most underrated vegetables for home gardeners, and regrowing them from scraps is a wonderful way to enjoy their mild, onion-like flavor for free. Number 15 on the list is pepper seeds, and this one takes more patience, but the reward is worth the wait. The next time you slice open a bell pepper, a jalapeno, or any other pepper variety, save the seeds from the center. Spread them on a paper towel and let them dry for a few days. Once dry, plant the seeds about a 1/4 inch deep in small pots filled with warm, moist seed starting mix. Cover the pots with plastic wrap to create humidity and keep them in a warm spot, ideally around 75 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit for germination. Pepper seeds can take anywhere from 7 to 21 days to sprout, so patience is essential. Once the seedlings have 2 sets of true leaves, transplant them into larger pots or garden beds with full sun and rich, well-draining soil. Peppers thrive in zones 5 through 11 and need a long, warm growing season. One pepper can contain dozens of seeds, meaning a single fruit from the grocery store could potentially supply your garden with pepper plants for an entire season. Just keep in mind that seeds from hybrid varieties may not grow true to type, so heirloom peppers tend to give more predictable results. The 16th scrap to save is tomato seeds, and just like peppers, this one requires a bit of time and care, but can yield an incredible harvest. Scoop the seeds from a ripe, flavorful tomato and rinse them in a fine mesh strainer under running water to remove the gel coating. Spread the seeds on a paper towel and let them dry completely, which usually takes about a week. Once dry, plant them a 1/4 inch deep in seed starting mix. Keep the soil warm and moist, and provide bright light. Tomato seeds typically germinate in 5 to 10 days. When the seedlings have their first set of true leaves, move them to larger pots, and once nighttime temperatures stay above 50 degrees Fahrenheit, transplant them into garden beds or large containers. Tomatoes grow well in zones 3 through 11 and need full sun with at least 8 hours of direct light daily. Heirloom varieties like Brandywine, Cherokee Purple, and San Marzano are excellent choices because their seeds will produce fruit very similar to the parent plant. Hybrid tomatoes from the grocery store may produce unpredictable results, but the experiment itself is half the fun. A single tomato can contain over 100 seeds, meaning one fruit could supply your garden for years. The 17th scrap on our list is one that catches most people off guard, and it is pineapple. That leafy crown you twist off the top of a pineapple before you eat it is actually a ready-made planting start. Twist or cut off the crown, peel away the lower leaves to expose about an inch of the stem, and let it dry for a day or two so the cut end calluses. Then place the crown in a glass of water so the base is submerged, and set it in a bright, warm spot. Roots will begin forming within 2 to 3 weeks. Once the roots are a couple of inches long, transplant it into a large pot with sandy, well-draining soil. Pineapples are tropical plants that thrive in zones 11 and 12, but gardeners in zones 9 and 10 can grow them outdoors with winter protection, and anyone else can grow them indoors. Pineapples need full sun, warm temperatures, and light watering. The catch is patience, because it takes about 2 to 3 years for a pineapple plant to produce its first fruit. But when it does, there is nothing quite like harvesting a homegrown pineapple from something you would have thrown in the trash. The 18th kitchen scrap worth trying is avocado pits, and while this one is more of a long-term project, it is incredibly satisfying to watch. Wash the pit, insert 3 toothpicks around the middle to suspend it over a glass of water with the broad end submerged, and place it in a warm spot with indirect light. It can take 2 to 6 weeks for the pit to crack and a root to emerge, so patience is key. Once the stem reaches about 6 inches tall, cut it back to 3 inches to encourage stronger growth. When roots are well established, transplant the pit into a pot with rich, well-draining soil. Avocado trees grow outdoors in zones 9 through 11, but they make wonderful indoor plants in any zone. Getting fruit from a seed-grown avocado is a long shot because it can take 5 to 13 years, and the fruit may not resemble the parent variety. But the tree itself is gorgeous, and the process of watching it grow from a pit is deeply rewarding. Give it bright, indirect light indoors and water when the top inch of soil dries out. The 19th item on our list is rosemary, and regrowing this perennial herb from a store-bought sprig is one of the smartest moves a gardener can make. Select a fresh rosemary sprig about 5 to 6 inches long, strip the leaves from the bottom 2 inches, and place the cutting in a glass of water. Rosemary is slower to root than some herbs, so expect to wait 3 to 4 weeks before you see roots forming. Change the water weekly and keep the cutting in a bright spot with indirect light. Once roots are about an inch long, transplant into a pot with sandy, well-draining soil. Rosemary thrives in zones 7 through 10 and prefers full sun with infrequent deep watering. It is drought-tolerant once established and does not like wet feet, so avoid overwatering. A single-rooted cutting can grow into a large, woody shrub that provides fresh rosemary for years. Varieties like Tuscan Blue and Arp are particularly hardy and flavorful. Rosemary from the grocery store can be hit or miss for rooting, so choose the freshest sprigs you can find and try rooting several at once. The 20th and final kitchen scrap on our list is mint, and I saved it for last because it might be the most enthusiastic regrower of them all. Take a fresh sprig of mint from the store or from a friend's garden. Snip the stem just below a leaf node, Remove the lower leaves and place it in a glass of water in a bright window. Mint roots incredibly fast, often within just 3 to 5 days. Once the roots are an inch or two long, plant the cutting in a pot with moist, rich potting soil. I strongly recommend keeping mint in containers rather than planting it directly in the garden, because mint is a vigorous spreader that can take over beds and borders in no time. It grows in zones 3 through 11 and tolerates partial shade better than most herbs. Spearmint, peppermint, and chocolate mint are all excellent varieties that root easily from cuttings. One sprig can become a full, bushy plant within a single season, providing you with fresh mint for tea, cocktails, desserts, and so much more. Pinch the stems regularly to encourage bushy growth. And now for the bonus tip gardeners swear by. If you want to dramatically increase your success rate when regrowing kitchen scraps, try using willow water as a natural rooting hormone. Collect a handful of fresh willow twigs, the young, green, flexible ones, and cut them into 1 to 2 inch pieces. Place the pieces in a jar and pour boiling water over them. Let the mixture steep overnight, then strain out the twigs. Use this willow water in place of regular water when you are rooting your cuttings and kitchen scraps. Willow bark contains indole butyric acid, which is the same compound found in commercial rooting powders. This simple, free solution can speed up root development and improve rooting success, especially for herbs like rosemary and basil that can be slow to root. Gardeners who use willow water consistently report noticeably faster root growth and stronger, healthier transplants. It is one of those old-fashioned gardening secrets that really works, and it does not cost you a thing. Thanks for sticking with me through the entire video. If you found this helpful, do not forget to join our free newsletter. I share exclusive tips, seasonal planting guides, and advice that helps gardeners just like you grow more food with less stress. Click the link in the description to sign up. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and check out our other videos on growing a better garden.